Oh hey, didn't see you there. I was just checking my tire pressures here. I'm Nick Isenhouer and welcome to Tech Tips with Method. Now, tire pressures are something that don't get talked about a lot. Most of the time, if you have a rig or a truck or SUV or what have you that you drove to the trail, more than likely you've got a pretty high tire pressure, because when you're driving around town, you're gonna want your 30, 35, 40, whatever your recommended tire pressure is for the vehicle. And that is to help the vehicle work good on road. Now, when you get off-road, it's a completely different ballgame. You're gonna wanna drop this tire pressure just a little bit to help with a lot of different aspects. So lowering your tire pressure does a few things. It helps improve traction, it helps improve ride quality in bumpy and uneven surfaces, and it also helps keep the vehicle from getting stuck, which, another part of traction. Something like this, like a truck like this, will lower these tires from 30 on the highway all the way down to like 10 to 7 PSI. Now that helps this truck get up and over all the rocks and the obstacles and helps build traction. Another benefit to lower tire pressure is flotation. Flotation is needed for gravel, loose rock, sand, and for you guys in the south, mud. What that does is it creates a wider contact patch of the tire, and it helps the tire to build traction on top of everything without digging down in below, and keeps the truck or vehicle moving forward without digging deep and getting stuck. Most people are gonna wait until they start getting stuck, and then they're gonna think, oh, I should probably lower these tire pressures. But no, you need to lower this pressure before you get into that situation. And not only the rear tires, but it also helps to lower the front tires as well to help with steering, help keep the vehicle where you want it to go on the trail, and keep the vehicle from understeering. Understeering is when your front tires slide, oversteering is where your rear tire slides. And if you have the tire pressure where you need it, making good traction all the way around, you can help keep the vehicle under control the whole time. So, ride quality. That's probably the #1 thing your wife wants to hear you talk about when it comes to your off-road vehicle. Lowering your tire pressure can actually help with that situation. So not only are your shocks trying to absorb all the bumps, but you gotta think this tire is a big cushion in your direct contact with the ground as you're driving. Lowering your tire pressure is gonna help absorb some of those bumps, some of those more high frequency washboards, pebbles, softball sized stones. It's gonna absorb that more in the tire than it's going to in the shock or the suspension component, and then take away a lot of that chatter and rattle that you feel when you're driving the car. So if you notice, roads like this are nice and bumpy when you got 30 PSI in the tires. Definitely something you want to lower the tire pressure a little bit for. Helps keep the vehicle making momentum forward and not so much bounce backwards against all the rocks. So we got to keep the foot in the gas a little bit more to keep the truck climbing up this little grade right here. Whereas I think if we had less tire pressure, we kind of maybe climb up and over all these rocks that are in our way. Sidewall Flex. Now, Sidewall Flex isn't just giving you a larger contact patch at the bottom of the tire where it meets the dirt, but it's also going to allow the sidewall of the tire to conform to the obstacles and objects that your tire is brushing up against. And it'll also help propel the vehicle forward by grabbing onto those objects and pulling the vehicle forward. In a 4x4 vehicle, in a less extreme off-roading situation, that's not needed as much. Now, if you get into a real extreme situation with 4x4, you're gonna want the side of that tire to grip on the stones and on the walls and the rocks and whatever you're getting up to get going through. Now, when you wanna talk about a two-wheel drive vehicle and just the back of the truck, you have that sidewall flex, and as the vehicle maybe starts digging down into something, the side of this tire is gonna grab those things that it's digging down in, and it's gonna help pull you out of that situation. Now that we've talked about why you wanna lower your tire pressure, let's talk about how you lower your tire pressure. Like I've talked about before, this is definitely something you don't want to wait to do. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you wish you had lowered your tire pressure, the vehicle's stuck, everybody's waiting for you to get yourself out. You want to do this in the parking lot or before you get to the trailhead and make sure your vehicle is readily equipped. Now, lowering your tire pressure seems like a very simple thing. Most of us will use our car keys, a rock, a stick, but that can take some serious amount of time when you're letting the air out of the tiny little Schrader valve. And then at that point, you're letting your buddies wait for you even more. There are much easier ways. The easiest way to lower your tire pressure precisely and effectively is using a tire deflator. So we're at the trailhead now. I'm gonna do the smart thing and lower my tire pressure before I get out there in the rocks. So let me show you guys how to do that with one of these great tire deflators. The cool thing about a tire deflator, if you're using your key or a rock or a stick like mentioned before, you are only letting air pass the Schrader valve itself, the little inserts. Now, using something like this, it actually removes the core out of the Schrader valve and keeps it contained within its unit, and then it allows the maximum amount of air out. So therefore, you're not sitting there for 20, 30 minutes letting all your tire pressure out. It's also attached to a gauge, so the whole time you can monitor how much air is coming out and keep track of it. And then that way, all 4 tires will match. So what you want to do is you thread it on here on the outside, and then it has this stick here. Now what this does is this pulls the core out. You'll hear a little bit of air there. What you want to do is pull the core out. There we go. Now this keeps the core in the unit itself, allows the air to pass all the way through. We're pretty high, if you see there, we're at, darn near 30 PSI. Now a truck like this, we're gonna wanna go down to, for these trails, probably like 7 to 10 PSI is what we're gonna shoot for. So now that you get to a pressure that you're happy with, or that you feel your vehicle is comfortable driving on the trails with, pretty simple here. So you wanna reinstall the core by threading it back in here, nice and tight, all the way down, boom. Then you're gonna wanna pull the whole unit unthreaded off of the valve stem itself. And then reinstall your valve stem cap. And now if you get real good at this, and you have a good co-driver, you can get 2 of these bad boys, and you have him do one side, you do the other side, and you get this thing knocked out twice as fast. Now I'm gonna go do the rest of my tires so we can get on the trail. As mentioned before, driving on the highway with low tire pressure can be unsafe, primarily because of the speed at which you're driving on-road versus off-road. Unless you're driving a race car, that's a completely different situation. Driving your vehicle on-road, you're driving at a higher rate of speed, and there's a lot more force on the bead of the tire. The bead of the tire is held onto the wheel by the air pressure in the tire, and when you lower that, it compromises that grip. There are solutions to that in aftermarket wheel technology, which is something we're going to talk about in some other videos. So now let's say you had a great day on the trail, right? None of us got stuck, we didn't get hung up on anything, nobody got buried in the sand because we had the right tire pressures. We're gonna need to air these back up because it's very unsafe to be driving on the highway with tire pressures this low, and you're gonna wanna put them back up to the vehicle spec. There's a couple different options to do this. Sometimes you'll get lucky and there'll be a gas station near the trailhead, or there'll be an air station at the trailhead where you can air your tires up. Your vehicle may be equipped with onboard air if you're that advanced in your off-roading, or a simple solution that I like to use is a very simple 12-volt air compressor. Something like this you can pick up at your local off-road store, connects to the battery, has an air line. Takes a little bit of time to air these big 40-inch tires back up, but that gives you plenty of time to chit-chat about all the fun times you had with your buddies. Now that you're all well educated in the importance of tire pressures for your vehicle and the trail for driving off-road, I'm gonna go test out my tire pressures and confidently take on this trail. Thanks for watching.